Sir, we were unable to acquire the droid on Jakku. It escaped capture aboard a stolen Carillion YT model freighter.
The droid stole a freighter.
Not exactly, sir. It had help. We have no confirmation, but we believe FN-2187 may have helped in the escape.
Anything else?
The two were accompanied by a girl.
What girl?
What is going on, bud smokers and movie lovers, and welcome back to another episode of 5 on It. As usual, we are your hosts. I am Francisco.
And I'm Sir Frazier.
And on today's episode, May the 4th be with you, comes to a close. And I would say it comes to a close on a high note. We are doing the last trilogy of Star Wars. We are doing Episode 7, Force Awakens. But before we dig into the weeds and all that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share a like, drop a comment on your favorite Star Wars moments. Maybe Force Awakens is your favorite Star Wars movie of all time. I highly doubt it, but maybe so. But Sir Frazier, tell the people what we're smoking on.
Man, I'm back at it again with Higher Cultures. Picked up a cartridge called Pineapple Gummies. It's nice, smooth sativa. Nice. But that's what's in my pipe, man. What about you?
Nice. I'm still smoking that Star Wars, crystal clear. I'm on that Death Star, man. Once the Star Wars week comes to a close, maybe I'll switch it up a little bit. But these are some nice flavors, man. I think I stay on it pretty often, so it's hard to leave.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who haven't caught our last couple episodes, this month, for the month of May, we wanted to set some time aside to, really celebrate, in our opinion, the best of the trilogies, beginning with the OG Star Wars, the original trilogy, where we focused on Empire Strikes Back. Yep, and then we focused on the prequel trilogy, rewatching Revenge of the Sith. And finally, we are going to the third trilogy, starting with Episode 7, the first of that trilogy, The Force Awakens. Mm-hmm. And so the summary for this movie, got him.
Shit.
It's that Death Star,
man. Got me.
No prisoners.
They need a strand called Star Killer Base, because after watching that, how it dwarfs the Death Star, man.
Oh man, that was damn. That's a highlight for me for sure. The visuals of that. So the summary for this movie is: as a new threat to the galaxy rises, Rey, a desert scavenger, and Finn, an ex-stormtrooper, must join Han Solo and Chewbacca to search for the one hope of restoring peace. This movie was directed by J.J. Abrams. It stars really a great blend of the OGs and some new blood. We've got Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Adam Driver, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, and Lupita Nyong'o. I'm not sure. Am I pronouncing that right?
I think so, yeah.
Nyong'o? Yeah.
I
didn't even realize that was her.
Who was she again?
She plays Maz.
Oh, she does. So I'm guessing she just does a voice. She doesn't do any mocap, I'm guessing.
Yeah. She actually had a really great line for me in this movie. Not to jump ahead too much, but when she says to Rey, "The belonging you seek is not behind you, it is ahead." Yeah. I thought that was a really great line because she's clearly a character who's looking for belonging. I mean, that's a big part of this story, and she finds purpose. And I would say even Finn finds purpose through the Resistance because of the threat of the First Order.
Yeah. Well, you saw like when they were about to pretty much make their, kind of like rendezvous in their separate ways, because Finn was going to go off onto the Outer Rim and try to disappear. Mm-hmm. And Rey was going to stay behind and, continue the fight or get back to Jakku. But then as soon as like all of like the Star Killer base, as soon as that starts gearing up and they start seeing exactly what's happening.
When they destroy the Republic. Yeah. The visuals of that, man, were so hauntingly beautiful. It was just like the visuals were just excellent for that. The way that the planet harnessed the sun's power.
Yeah, like when they reload it and they're like recharging the thing and they show it again. I'm just like, this thing is like the guy, what's his name?
General Hux?
Donald Gleason.
Hux, right?
Yeah.
Is it Hux or Hex?
Actually, it might be Hex.
General Hux, yeah.
Oh, is it Hux?
Yeah, he's great as a villain in this movie.
Dude, I can't. Every time I see him, I just think of as some of his characters in other films or shows I've seen. I've seen him in like Black Mirror.
Yeah, that's right. I read that. He was in Harry Potter.
Yeah, that too. So like when I see
Ex
him,
Machina.
yeah. Oh my god, that's such a great movie. I love
Yeah.
Ex Machina. But seeing him like when he delivers like his speech and everything,
Bro, that shit was haunting.
I was like,
very
God
chilling.
damn. But then after that, that's when they turn around and you see the fucking light starts like going up, and you're like, this shit looks. I mean, it looks amazing, but also like you said, haunting because they're like how the Death Star is able to like destroy one planet. This can destroy like a whole solar
Multiple,
system.
yeah, and it destroys the whole. It literally incinerates the Republic. I mean, the visuals of that, dude. I mean, that weapon enables them to commit mass genocide on a greater scale than the Death Star.
Yeah, well, that's when they were sitting around the table and they show how like small the Death Star is compared to the Star Killer base.
Dwarfs it
You're like,
significantly.
oh. But then Han is just like, there's a way to blow it up. There's always a way to blow
always
it up.
Always the optimist. What was I going to say? So the screenplay was written by Michael Arndt, J.J. Abrams, and Lawrence Kasdan, who was involved in Empire Strikes Back. I think he wrote that, as well as I think he was also involved in the writing of Return of the Jedi. One of the things that I read about this that I think is just, again, going back to what we were talking about with the actual cast, kind of bringing back some of the old, like the veterans from this franchise with also the new blood, is that there were actually family members, like children of people or relatives who were tied to original visual effects people who worked on the original Star Wars movies. Oh, they actually, there were people, I think it was somebody who was one of the art directors. I believe it might have been the senior art director, if I remember right. He was a relative, I think he may have even been a son of the art director that worked on one of the OG Star Wars movies. So I'm just like, and that's just one incident, but I mean, there's actual multiple people who had familial connection, blood relatives to the OG trilogy working on this film. And I thought that was like really cool, just like a really sweet detail to like, like a kind of like I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Endearing. It made that movie, that project more endearing, especially like if you're a fan of that franchise, just knowing that the thread that connected movies.
Well, honestly, like
across all these years,
when you hear about certain things like that, with that's where like it's. I don't want to compare it to Thor: Love and Thunder, but then when you start hearing about like in the scene when at the end when Thor is fighting, I think when he's fighting all the like those weird creatures and he gives the power to all the kids, all those kids was like related to like some like what they were like Chris Hemsworth's kids. I think they were Taika's kids. Who else was in the movie? They were all related in some way, so they just kind of like cool how it ties everybody together, keeps everything in like the family of like who's creating the film and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
also, for sure.
But also it when you're thinking of how it blends with the younger cast and the older cast is very reminiscent to X-Men: Days of Future Past, which is one of my favorite superhero movies.
Ditto.
But those are two movies that I think they do a very good job of like taking the old, taking some of the new, blending them together, and still setting the path of like where we could go into the future with like this newer cast. Which I think they laid a good groundwork for. I don't want to get into like, Last Jedi or what was the last one called? Rise of Skywalker?
Rise of Skywalker, yeah.
I don't want to get into those two movies, but like with this one, it felt like they laid a pretty decent groundwork of where they could have taken it.
I agree.
Especially even with Rey's character, like you go back to Maz and like how she just kind of goes down and she finds Luke's lightsaber.
It's like beckoning her.
Yeah, and if you watch it with subtitles on like I do, you'll see like
the whispering.
Yeah, there's other Jedis that's talking to her.
I think Ben Kenobi was one of them. Yeah. Yoda.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
couldn't
remember
quite
if
tell.
Mace.
Like it said Yoda. They didn't say Mace on like my screen at least. Maybe I
Okay,
missed it.
I think you might be.
I definitely heard Obi Yoda. I didn't really hear Yoda, but
I
like,
didn't really hear
they
Obi
said
that well.
Yoda.
Yeah.
But then like you hear like I think it was the older actor that plays Obi-Wan that says like this is your first steps or something like that.
Yeah.
So it does hint that says like she does have like this calling
And connection to the Force.
Yeah, to me, like where it said, well, I mean, where it did lead to, where it's like she's a Skywalker or something like that, or she has a lineage to Palpatine. I don't think they needed to do all that type of shit.
Yeah.
They could have just. I thought it was beautiful and thinking that like she's just a scavenger, she's just this rando kid. Like, why would she have any ties to the Force? And it's like that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
The Force can have ties to anybody, and how even Moss puts it, like it just kind of flows through. It flows through everything. It flows through your whole body. It flows all around us. So it's just the Force doesn't pick and choose just because of lineage.
Right. Because Anakin had no lineage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was no father.
Exactly.
You know.
So I figured if they would have led into that more, at least with Rey, maybe the trilogy after this could have been a little bit better, personally. But I feel like they laid a great groundwork, though, at least in Force Awakens.
Oh, most definitely, and that's reflected in a couple of things, just from a critical standpoint, as well as a consumer box office standpoint. I mean, this movie received nominations for Best Film Editing, Best Original Score, Best Sound Editing, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Visual Effects. It had a budget of over $533 million. Making it the most expensive movie ever made.
But you know, they
got it at the box office though, over $2 billion. I mean,
and it's still the highest grossing domestic film. So at least they have that over.
But is that accounting for? That's not accounting for inflation though, right? That's just like by today's dollars, right?
Well, I mean,
because I know sometimes lists will adjust by inflation.
Yeah, but then also like when people
in terms
like,
of box
I've heard
office.
like the argument when like against like using inflation because it's like they say like Gone with the Wind, where they're like, well, you know, if they release it now because like they think like the same amount of people will still see it, and it's like they didn't have like things working against it back then, so necessarily just saying like. If you just release Gone with the Wind now, just saying like it will make exactly the same amount of money back then. Where it's like, well, if you would put the same things against it, like streaming services, just other forms of entertainment, would have still made the same amount of money.
Yeah,
maybe not. So it's like, like inflation. Like I don't know. Like it's a good argument, but I can also see for it, but also against it as well because. I don't know. You can't. I don't think you can just take just one of one and just say like it would definitely make the same amount of money if you release it nowadays. Yeah,
I agree, but I think adjusting for inflation can be a helpful, at least for me, helpful reference point because if I know a movie came out in let's say the 40s, right, or the earlier, right, and I might not have if you give me the adjusted for inflation number, I have a more. That registers more in my mind in terms of what that movie was doing relative to today.
Yeah.
So it's helpful for me in that way to gauge because I don't really have the historical context and knowledge of that time.
Yeah.
I the best I could maybe extend to maybe is the 70s.
Yeah.
And that's a watershed era because of the modern blockbusters we get with Star Wars, Jaws, and so on. You know.
Yeah.
But anyways,
with the domestic. Star Wars. I mean, it is littered with just Marvel and Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
and Avatar. And just Disney.
It's kind of gross.
Disney is just making just
hand over fist, bro. They're just like they make it so there's so much damn money. I'm gonna need them motherfuckers to stop raising my Disney Plus,
but it's like
fee because y'all clearly are already killing it. Y'all don't need more of our money.
This is the top 10 right here. You got Star Wars Force Awakens, Endgame, Spider-Man No Way Home, Avatar, Top Gun, Black Panther, Avatar, and Way of Water. Infinity War, Titanic, Jurassic World. Yeah, Jurassic World is the last one at 10. Jesus, you got
so if it's not Disney, it's Cameron.
But then you got at least Tom Cruise coming in like, motherfucker, I'm going to stick my stamp in that bitch. Tom Gunn is such a great movie. Go check out that review we did.
Oh, yeah. Also, man, just a quick shout out. Legendary composer John Williams did the score, earning him his 50th Academy Award nomination.
I mean,
big props to him, man. He's one of the. I mean, he might be the GOAT.
Yeah.
As far as composing,
yeah, that is true. And then like
I don't know who. If it's not him, who? I mean, honestly, I'm totally open. I just would like to hear like who else would be in the runnings.
I mean, there's some newer guys that are pretty good.
Because I mean, he's 90 years old.
It's still John Williams.
He's had such a run,
and it's when like you can just like hum some of like the Harry Potter, Jurassic Park. If you could just hum some of these melodies, and people are just like him.
I mean, Jaws.
To me, it's just like a no-brainer, honestly.
Yeah,
but
yeah, dude, you know, I mean, just diving into the plot, man. I really like the opening sequence where we meet Poe. He's the star pilot of the Resistance, and he is immediately captured by the Order's Kylo Ren. So I read that originally Poe's character was modeled off of Han Solo, and that's not a surprise. But I read that originally he was supposed to be killed in this movie, but J.J. Abrams rewrote it so that he would live in hopes of getting to really get Oscar Isaacs to buy in and sign up for the role.
So I'm guessing was he supposed to die off like at the crash?
He was gonna. I don't know. I think he might have ended up dying during one of the firefights. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because Oscar Isaac is such a great actor. So
yeah, and he's got range too.
To me, like when you get caliber like that, you should try to. I mean, you don't have to extend the role. Like they should just play the character for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you shouldn't have to like, make a character bigger than what it needs to be. But if you do get a great talent, then maybe there's some rearranging that you can do to try to extend his durability.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting, just kind of the business decisions that drive some of these edits or rewrites. Because in this one, right, it was like, oh, I want this actor, and I'm happy to restructure this character's arc to keep him.
Maybe just
to get him on
screen
board.
testing. Maybe people watch it at first and a good chunk of it, and they're just like, "Where's Poe? Where the fuck is Poe?"
Yeah,
and they're like, "All right, maybe we need to get more Poe in this thing."
Yeah, I mean,
I can see some screen
testing. Some screen testing.
Maybe there's some people asking kind of where, because there is a gap of where he crashes and until he shows up with the Resistance and everything like that. Isn't that towards the end? So there's a large gap where he's pretty much just missing through the movie.
Yeah, because they come and save them when they're visiting Maz.
Yeah.
That's when the Force Order realizes that's where the droid is, and that's when Kylo captures Rey.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I love the intro that we get to Finn's character.
Mm-hmm.
I think that showing us somebody who is suffering from PTSD. He obviously is not a clone. He was taken from his home and forced to be a soldier. Mm-hmm. And his arc in wanting to leave and saving Poe really just kickstarts the story. Yeah. He's like, why does everybody want to go back to Jakku?
Yeah. Well, I think it's you're getting kind of opposites. You got these people that want to fight, and then he just wants to run the whole time. But then he eventually sees that you just can't run away from these issues. They're going to track you down no matter where you're going.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that arc was great because we understand why he's so fearful, because he knows how evil. He knows that they'll slaughter millions of people without billions even. Yeah. They'll kill billions to accomplish their goal. And so I'm very empathetic to that character in wanting to run, but he realizes, to your point, I can't outrun this.
Yeah.
I have to stand and fight. And that was a really great arc to see. I love the lightsaber scene he has at the very end with against Kylo Ren. I love from when our intro to Rey, right, where she's scavenging from essentially like the ruins of the Empire. It's
Yeah.
literally like the graveyard of the Empire. These ships that had crashed into the planet.
Which is a nice touch when they like.
Oh,
when
yeah.
you have the I forget what they call those, like those little walkers that you see in Empire.
Oh yeah, yep.
But those are just nice little Easter eggs that you throw in. That's like
For sure.
I remember that. But I also like too, like when they talk about Finn's character, the First Order is talking about him, and they're kind of like pretty much saying like why did he run, or like why wasn't he like, I guess maybe brainwashed even more. And what's her name, Plasma, or the chick that's all silver, dude, her outfit is fucking sick. I think she takes her helmet off at some point, or maybe it gets knocked off. I'm not sure. I think it happens in Rise of Skywalker at some point. But when they're talking about Finn, they're just mentioning that like he's never like shown any signs of running before, or like he's just never like done anything like that before. So it's like
No history.
yeah. So they're like why would we do that to him? Like it's like he didn't do anything before. He's like kind of a non-threat. But then eventually once like in the blood, like the handprint on like the stormtrooper's helmet, great detail. And then even when like they're showing everybody like shooting the innocent people, and then like him just like kind of the angle of like the camera and just showing him just not shooting, and then him with the gun down, and then how he has the face off with Kylo a little bit.
Yeah.
And so like they're obviously having some sort of connection in a way. So like he can kind of sense
Something's not right with him.
Yeah,
because he identifies him by name when they find out that one of the stormtroopers helped Poe escape.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love the scene too when they arrive back to the ship and he's having that panic attack. You know, he takes off the helmet. He's like hyperventilating, and he's just like trying to process just the horrors that he just witnessed. They set this character up in a really unique way as far as like any of the characters that I can think of in the Star Wars franchise. We'll talk later on, I imagine, maybe not right now, but in terms of like one of the lowlights for me in this movie, and one of the missed opportunities in this character. But yeah, where do you want to? What are your thoughts?
Well, I was just thinking that like from there, he meets up with Rey on Jakku, and then once like you kind of like those two characters meet, and I feel like throughout the movie they kind of had like pretty good chemistry with one another. Those two actors, even when like they're in the ship, I think they're in the Falcon at this point, and he's just like, "Yeah, who are you? Like, you got a boyfriend? Cute boyfriend?" Like,
None of your business.
I know, and even though like he's trying to like grab her hand. Like, I don't know why he still keeps trying to do that. Like, obviously,
he's trying to be her heroic or chivalrous, I imagine.
Yeah. But then, like, but even before that, though, he saw, like, he was going to go and save her. But then he sees that she's, like, really capable because she saw, like, she fought off those two dudes.
Yeah, trying to
so
get
it's
the
like,
droid.
why are you trying to grab this chick's hand? You just saw her fight off two dudes. Yeah, why are you trying to grab her hand?
Yeah.
But those are, like, little funny moments I feel like they have with one another. But then they, once they get to the Falcon and they're trying to outrun the First Order and all that, those are all great scenes.
That's a highlight for me.
Yeah, all the outer space scenes. I feel like, I mean, honestly, they do really good job in the first trilogy that was released in the 70s. But in these movies, it just feels like it's just obviously it's way more modern. Things just look so much cleaner, so much crisp. Like the ship just coming over the planet, everything just looks fantastic.
Oh yeah, the opening shot of the First Order ship going over Jakku.
Yeah.
Oh man, dude! And then you see the smaller crafts flight out of it and descend to Jakku.
They're just
good visuals, dude.
You could just see like going from the original trilogy on like what they're just kind of able to show and what they're able to do, and then now they're like, all right, this is almost 50 years later, we are able to like do some tricks now, like saying, showing the details of the planet and the ships coming away or coming, like whether they're coming to or from the or the planet, or coming off the First Order ship. Man, just the details just look outstanding.
Yeah, I mean the explosions are terrific, especially when we see them use the planet, the weapon inside the planet.
Yeah.
I thought that was really fun, and I loved this. This was a highlight. This whole sequence was a highlight for me. Is when they are fleeing and they're searching for a ship, and Finn says, "What about that one?" And she said, "No, it's garbage." And then the one that they're actually running to gets blown up, and she's like, "The garbage will do fine." And we pan and we see it's the Millennium Falcon. That was just like, oh man, like
Yeah.
great to see.
Yeah.
And again, that flight where they are, I love that scene where they're trying to evade the First Order on Jakku. I thought visually it's really fun. It looked great. I mean, we see, like we said earlier, the ruins of the Empire, and it establishes Rey's and Finn's relationship.
Yeah.
And this really, because, they're under this duress. And then, of course, in the immediate aftermath of that, after they escape Jakku, Han Solo and Chewbacca are brought into the story.
That's kind of where I was going to lead to. But that kind of confused me for a minute, though, because, like, you can obviously, the Falcon is getting engulfed by another ship. And you're assuming that is the First Order. Was that the First Order? Because, like, that's why I was like...
It was good misdirection.
Yeah, it threw me off for a minute, because as soon as, like, Han and, like, Chewie popped up, I was like, wait a minute. So who did pick up... Like, whose, like, big-ass ship was that? Like, what the fuck was that? I don't know. It just, like, threw me off for a minute. But seeing Han and Chewie, like, pop in, and even having the banter with those two smuggling teams that are trying to take them out.
That was kind of my least favorite scene, to be honest. I could have done without that scene.
I didn't mind it too much.
I didn't really need it.
I mean, you don't need it too much, but anytime I could see Harrison Ford as Han Solo
trying to talk his way out of it.
Yeah, it's not too bad, but yeah, you could take it out and easily.
It still works.
Yeah, the movie flows just fine.
Yo, I loved BB-8 is hilarious. The interaction between BB-8 and Finn, where he gives her the thumbs up, and then and the BB-8 gives the flame, like where he's basically he's misleading, he's lying to Rey, giving her the impression that he is of the Resistance, when really he's not, obviously, and BB-8 knows that that's not what's up. He's lying, but BB-8 is only BB-8 knows where the base is, and so he's trying to get BB-8 to tell Rey and Finn where, so they can get the piece of the map that is the missing fragment of the map to lead the Skywalker. And we pivot to that next scene, right, with General Hux and Kylo Ren in front of Snoke. The visuals of that were dope. That scene was dope. And it also establishes like that tension between Hux and Kylo Ren, which becomes like funny throughout this trilogy. Yeah.
I mean, you can see the like.
There's clearly competition between them.
Yeah, because I mean, Hux is like kind of talking to Ren as like, and like, he says something about like, I mean, I don't know if like Supreme Snoke would like that, or he says something along those lines. And Kylo is just kind of like looking at him, just kind of like, motherfucker, like I'm the one in charge, not fucking Snoke. He kind of gives him that vibe. And so it's like when Kylo takes off the helmet and he's just talking to Snoke. This was after he was trying to get that information from Rey. God, like how the editing, how they cut to him, he's like, Snoke is just immediately screaming like, how could she like resist you? And they cut to Ren and he's like, she's strong with the Force, but she just doesn't even know it. I was just like, oh my God. And then here Hux comes in and everything like that. So you could just kind of see that like there's just like this tension, I suppose, between Hux and Ren. And then when they're in front of Snoke, it's just kind of like, I don't know, they're kind of like battling for approval.
I think, there's definitely that. And there's also...
Because he's also like, I don't want to run you for a quick second, but he's just like, oh, I could do it if I just have your guidance. It's like, oh my God, bro.
I mean, he's desperate to please. I mean, he's also living under the shadow of his grandfather. That was a really powerful scene for me where we see him kind of, he's talking to the helmet. Darth Vader's helmet. That was a really strong scene for me. But also, early in this movie, it establishes that he is quick to anger. He's not mature. And there's like a boyishness to him, too, in terms of how he reacts to bad information. Or, I did like that scene where they tell him... the droid escaped, and that was the source of tension between Hux and Kylo Ren, was that Kylo Ren wanted the droid back. He wanted to go. He wanted to go after Luke. He wanted the map, the full map, whereas Hux was, telling him, don't let your personal vendetta cloud your judgment. Like General Snoke was clear.
Yeah.
Just needs to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And so, that kind of descends when, they escape. But when one of the guys comes to tell Kylo Ren, hey, the droid escaped.
I know what you're talking
A droid escaped in a freighter. He's like, what? He's like, Finn helped him, and then he just goes to work on that damn computer, just destroying it with the saber.
Bro,
and then he's like, anything else? He's like, a girl. He fucking brings him to, uses the Force to like bring him to him, and that was just like, that was a cool scene.
Dude, that's when to me like he went from just having like he went from like at least having a temper tantrum, just like, oh my god, this dude's just like, all right. But then when he like sucks him in with the when he sucks him in with the Force and he starts choking him and shit, I'm like, okay. I mean, it looks, it's a lot more visceral when you're more physical, when you're actually got your hands around the throat, because obviously Vader would do it just kind of with like, he'll do it with his mind.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
There's something a little more visceral about actually choking somebody with your, like you bring them close and then now you're just choking them with your hands. So it's like to me, at least he looked a lot more menacing at that point, because that's kind of what I'm, at least was battling with Kylo Ren's character, was like, because I'm thinking, especially when I first saw this movie, this was only maybe the second or third time watching it since the movie got released, was what kind of villain were we going to have in this new trilogy? Mm-hmm. We need a good villain to live up to Vader because he's so iconic, whether it's like the look of him, the sound of him, even how he moves and everything, his presence, his aura. But I was just like struggling a little bit with Kylo Ren with like, I mean, he didn't look, he wasn't too bad, especially when, like at the first when he comes off the ship and everything, his voice is not too bad and stuff like that. But like when he has his temper tantrum, I was just like, what the fuck is this dude doing?
Yeah.
But then when he brings him in and starts choking, I was like, oh shit. It turned a little bit. Like I said, he looked a lot more menacing at that point. Mm-hmm. But then he has another fucking meltdown, where this one seems like the way they do the editing and have the two stormtroopers come in. Oh yeah, makes it a little bit more funny.
Oh yeah. When they turn around.
Yeah, when he's just like going apeshit in the room, and then they cut to the stormtroopers like walking past, and they just stop and they just turn back around.
Yep.
I'm not
guards.
Sure, I'm not sure if they should have had that in there or
that's
not.
That's after Rey escapes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When she uses the Force.
I was like, should this have been a funny moment? Because if that's what they were going for, I mean, well played. You guys definitely succeeded.
Yeah.
But if you guys are going for him to just be more serious, man, I don't know if you guys should have had the stormtrooper scene.
Yeah. I think that I understand, because they're bringing back in characters like Han Solo and Chewbacca. I understand you're going to incorporate some humor, but I think that I wish that this movie would have leaned into some of the darker themes that it kind of brushes on, like Finn's PTSD and just, him. I wish they would have written him more as a serious character and less for comedic relief. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with those scenes from time to time, but I think, you already have a character modeled off of a character that kind of balances between like kind of ironic kind of humor, but who's also kind of a little bit jaded in Han Solo. But you kind of you're already drawing so heavily from that character in Poe. So, I mean, why not just use the kind of comedic relief there? And Finn could have been more of a serious character.
Dude, especially with like when Poe was captured at the beginning of the movie, mm-hmm. and like he has to face off with Rey with Ren, and he's just like, should I talk now or should you talk now?
Yeah. I feel like somebody should talk now.
That shit was hilarious.
That was a good moment.
Like you said, like I agree. Like Poe should have been maybe more of the comic relief. Like Finn being a like funny side. Like I did laugh, but it's like now you kind of have like two more comedy characters instead of like mm-hmm. having just like one, have the other guy being serious, and then you have Rey as like you're part of your new trifecta. Yeah,
I mean, I think of a big turning point for Finn's character is when they go to the planet where to meet Maz. And
I love that scene.
I really like that scene too. You know, she kind of reads him very well when she says, "I've seen those eyes. This is the eyes. You know, I've seen these eyes enough times into my life. You're someone who wants to run," and he's absolutely right. And that was a tough moment too, because you have the group breaking up, and you again, it really highlights his fear and what's driving him. And there's also the fear, right, that's operating for Rey, which is the fear of abandonment, right? The fear of not being back on Jakku when this family that she's imagines is going to come back for her. And Maz is like, hey, listen, I hate to break this to you. They're not coming back.
Yeah.
They sold you. They traded you for whatever they could get. And I thought like that common thread between those two characters was really like was a strong part of the writing.
Yeah.
I mean, shortly after that, shit really gets popping because the First Order has been alerted that the droid that they're looking for is there.
Dude,
a lot of snitches in that establishment.
I feel like bar scenes are like a great staple in Star Wars, where you
visually everything, yeah,
yeah, exactly. Visually, you can use that to like just showcase so many different like creatures and stuff. And I feel like they did that here, even with whoever like the chick was that ratted them out. Whoever that fucking creature was, that shit with the horns on his fucking chin and stuff. I'm like, oh my God. Dude, my mind fucking goes in like kind of twisted, weird ways sometimes. Because I'm just like, why would you even make love to a beast like that? It's like, would you even like fuck that thing traditionally? Or would you like, I don't know. Because I'm just like, God, that thing is like a ghoul. Yeah. Oh my God. But bar scenes are always a great... great visual
treat, yeah.
It's a great representation of like just Star Wars as a whole, of just creatures and whatnot, and also just using special effects, especially when you're using practical effects. It always looks really good on screen.
Yeah, no, for sure. What was I gonna say? I mean, the scene where okay, so I got to go ahead and get this out too. Problem that I have with this movie, and this is tied to this scene, is that, this scene in the movie, is that they hint at the romantic tension between Finn and Rey, at least from Finn towards Rey. But I feel like there was never a satisfying resolution on that front in this trilogy.
Yeah.
There's that moment when they just arrived to Maz's planet, and Finn is telling Solo how he's a big deal with the Resistance and blah, 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 blah. He said, hey, Solo. He said, you just call me Solo?
Mr. Solo?
Mr. Solo, Han. He says, you got a much bigger problem. A woman always finds out.
Yeah.
And so, like, I feel like he could pick up on the sexual tension there.
Yeah.
Right? But it's just something that is never really, like, executed in a satisfactory way for me.
Well, like I feel like they hint at like Finn also being like force sensitive as well. Like later, I said, like I don't think they really do that in this movie. I feel like they do that in a later movie, but it's just things that I feel like they hint at in like whether it's like this movie or in the next movie, and then they just don't pay it off in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So
I mean, hell, the reason he comes back and doesn't go to the Outer Rim and just fade away.
Yeah.
Right? He comes back because he wants to save Rey, and he also has information about that planet.
Yeah.
Sanitation wise.
And they even do the classic, like in the fucking all the rom-coms when like they're separating and you're like, oh no, they're gonna leave.
All is lost.
And like the one person is looking at them while they're walking away.
Yes.
And then when they finally turn away, the other person, they turn and they look back and they're like, oh, I guess they're not looking. And then the door closes. It's like they do the classic rom-com shit. And so, but even when they hint at, or when Finn tells about the cute boyfriend. So and even at the end, like, I mean, it's just like a friendly kiss at first, maybe. Does she kiss him or no?
Yeah, and then she says friend.
Yeah, so it's
I'm
like
just like, all right. they friends. Look what they did to our boy.
it's like maybe you don't have to like well, I don't know, like if you're gonna hint at it, you have to like you still got to pay it off, whether it's like whether they end up together or they don't end up together. If you're gonna hint at something, you still need to like
otherwise don't
have some sort of
That's
resolution.
fine too.
Yeah, just don't put it in the writing then. Like, why would you be like, all right, we're gonna hint at this, whether it's like Finn being force sensitive or this romance between these characters. But then, we're not going to have any sort of resolution to it, whether it's a positive or a negative resolution.
It's like psych, basically. But I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to get to a quick little negative. I mean, it's not a huge negative, but I was just like, I get it why she wants to go back to Jakku, because at that moment she's still trying to find her. She still thinks her family's going to come back for her. But you were just so excited to meet Han. Han's offering you a job now to like tour, I don't want to say tour the galaxy, but just, go on adventures with him and Chewie, and maybe even leave the Falcon to you when he eventually passes away, because
he's murdered.
He's murdered.
He didn't pass away.
He doesn't pass away to the Force. He gets a lightsaber to the gut.
Yo, for real.
But at that moment, I was like, bitch, take the fucking job.
I mean,
especially when she was like, I'd be so flattered if you were offering me the job, but blah, 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 blah. I'm like, bitch, he is offering you the job. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, take the job, bitch. Take the job. What, are you going to go back to Jakku? Ain't nothing there?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. I think that the fear in her, I mean, you saw that, right? They hinted at it back when she was on Jakku, the way that she was keeping a tally of how many days. It was like sad seeing that, especially where she was living, how she was literally scavenging in order to get scraps of food. That like they make it clear that she has this longing and this want that this void in her, right? And she realizes over the course of that movie that going back, there's nothing there for her.
Yeah. And
I thought that was like, I like the way that they illustrated that throughout this movie. But
it finally becomes clear to her.
Yeah.
It was even kind of sad.
And that's her curve, right? That's her story, right? She has to learn that over the movie.
It's like, I get why she turned it down, but it's like the person to me is like, bitch, you can come back to Jakku later. Like, if you're going to adventures,
ain't going nowhere.
Ain't going nowhere. And even when they go into the planet and she's just like, I've never seen, or I didn't think the galaxy could have so much green or something like that. And then Han kind of gives her that look like, damn, like,
you've been living a sheltered life.
Yeah, like, holy shit.
But she's also incredibly resourceful. Like the way that she not only flew the Millennium Falcon, but acted quickly to make the repairs on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
She's like,
she had that grin on her face when she like overrid the hydraulic something like that.
Yeah,
she pulls that out and she's just holding it, grinning, and Han's just like, "What the hell?"
I bet my match.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think seeing there was like those tender moments, right? When for me they were right when Han sees General Leia on the on Maz's planet. You know what? One thing tell me what you think about this. So, I think I would have preferred a later reveal that Kylo Ren was Han's son. I think that I'm not necessarily sure how they would have executed that, but I would have liked that reveal later in the movie. I'm talking like second or third act, because I think that would have been like very much in line with paying homage to like the original big reveal in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
I think that would have worked. I think I would have preferred that over, because we learned it pretty soon, right? Maybe they hint at it, but don't like tell us straight on.
Maybe they did that so they wouldn't feel like they're just trying to doing exactly what Empire or they did in the original trilogy. I guess I could see them just being like, well, if we get them going back and forth in the writer's room, being like, should we reveal this like now or later? It's like, well, if we do it later, maybe people are going to be like, they're just doing the same shit they did in the original trilogy. So like, I wouldn't mind it if they would have like waited a little bit. Honestly, like maybe they could have like just trying. I mean, I'm not going to try to like revisit the movie too much in my head, but like, if they could have maybe saved it even for like that face off with Han, and you're just kind of like, what's going on here? And then once they actually have that reveal, then you're like, oh.
Well, because I mean, I would have loved it because I mean, she says, if you see our son, bring him back. You know, I wonder if I don't know. I hadn't really thought how they could restructure that, but I was just thinking that reveal, having that happen a little bit later in the story, to help really highlight the conflict that exists within Kylo Ren, because that's clear that he is conflicted in a lot of different ways, which I think was like added a lot of texture to his character, even if it wasn't always well executed.
Well, yeah, he even mentioned when he's having like the little moment with Vader, he says, "I can feel like the light, like the pull from the light." So he's obviously feeling like conflicted, like as you mentioned. But one reveal though that I wish, it kind of goes to my cons, that I wish was later, was when he takes off the helmet. I wish he would have kept that helmet on all the way into the moment that he has the face off with Han. Because like when he does it first with Rey, I don't know, I guess that's a big moment because like maybe of like who they will become together later on. But I'm like, for this movie, just as in the vacuum as a whole, I'm like, when she's just like, I'm just talking to a guy in a mask or whatever the fuck she said to make him like take it off. I'm like, you just let this bitch just get over on you, just like let you do whatever you want to do, like have you make you. I can't even talk right now. It makes me feel so frustrated. Having you make you this reveal, it's like I don't know. It just felt like kind of odd. And even when he takes it off, I don't know, you kind of almost feel like that sexual tension as well, where she's kind of like,
definitely,
you're like, whoa, I didn't think you were going to be so good looking behind that mask. You're like, goddamn. But in this movie, if they would have never had that reveal at, when he's face off with Rey, and then when he would have said, I want to see my son's face, and then he takes it off for the first time, I think that would have had a little bit of a better impact for at least for me personally. It just didn't hit as much when he takes it off in front of Han. And like maybe, like I said, paired it with saving the reveal for like that we know that is his son. Maybe having both of those things could have maybe made that moment even bigger. Yeah. And then when he gives the lightsaber to the gut, because even like it is kind of like a good line when it's a sad moment when like he's like I just don't know if I have the strength to do it. I know what I must do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it.
Also a great meme.
But but then does he say, I can't quite remember, but then once he stabs him, doesn't he say something like that? Say something after that, like thank you, or now I do, or
no, I think he said thank you,
or
something to that effect. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that was a good moment, but it's like I feel like that could have been hit even harder if, like you said, saved maybe a little bit of the reveal for a little bit later in the film, or just don't take off that mask as well, not into that moment, because I don't know. Once you take the mask off, you lost a little bit of the aura. Just like
I agree. I think that's true for sure. I think the mystery, I think does a lot of work when you don't reveal his face.
Yeah, because he takes the mask off in front of Rey, then he puts it back on when he's in front of like the other commanders or whatever, blah blah blah. Then he takes it back off in front of Han. Then he pretty much keeps it off the rest of the way of the movie. So I was like, if he would have just had that one reveal at the end, then he leaves it off. Then he ends up getting scarred on his face, and he comes back in the second film with his fucked up face and everything. Yeah, I don't know. You could have did something with that a little bit more personally, but that's a con for me. I feel like they should have saved that the mask reveal. Just do it once.
Yeah,
we don't need to do it twice.
I think when we get to the last act where Finn, Solo, and Chewbacca are going to the planet to disable the weapon, which is charging up to eliminate the resistance. The firefight that takes place on that planet, that was a highlight for me. Yeah. As we're seeing Han, Finn, and Chewbacca go down level by level looking for Rey, and then the fact that she's already escaped. But I love the scene though where what's Finn's old stormtrooper? What's his the stormtrooper? What's her name? Plasma?
I want to say it was like plasma or phasma,
Something like that. Yo, when after she disables the shields for the around the planet,
Phasma.
she says Phasma. She says to Finn, like, "My soldiers will be in here and kill you all in no time at all." And Finn puts the gun up. He's like, "I disagree." Yeah. He's just like, "What do you want to do with her?" He's like, "You guys got like a trash compactor?" He's like, "Yeah, we do." Yeah. That's a great. Like, see, like if they limit the humor to those types of moments, it worked perfectly. But
it was a funny moment. So I laugh when they run up on Phasma and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm in charge now. I'm the one that's in charge now." And then Han's like, "All right,
take it
Tony,
easy.
take it down."
Take it down. Well, also, he's like, "Why do you keep doing this? I'm trying to give up with a plan to save Ray. Why do you keep doing this? What is this?" Yeah. When he's like tilting nodding his chin towards Ray, who's like escaping and behind them.
Yeah.
That was a great scene.
The actress that plays Captain Phasma is old girl from Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Brienne.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Brienne
Oh,
Toth.
man. Yeah. Great character.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, yeah, I mean, this last act, I would say, when we get the lightsaber battle with first Finn and Kylo Ren, where he's like, "Traitor!"
Yeah.
He's like, that lightsaber belongs to me. That battle was fun.
Yeah.
I loved it when Ray steps up after Finn, takes the fucking saber to the back.
Mm-hmm.
That sounded kind of crazy.
Uh-oh.
Pause.
Pause?
That was a really fun battle, and the fact that she won, it's also like, God damn, Kylo Ren, this nigga's fucking JV squad of Siths. That's not on the. He ain't varsity yet.
That's when like. I did like the fight, but man, I feel like at least because like they haven't hinted at Finn being force sensitive yet. I think they do that more in the second movie, or maybe even the third movie as well. Mm-hmm. But at least in this one, they've already said obviously Rey is strong with the Force. She's just not trained yet or anything like that. So I can kind of seeing her like maybe winning a battle against Kylo, because maybe it's just because she just has so much backing with the Force that is just overriding her being a novice with the lightsaber in a one-on-one battle. But it would have been fun to see maybe Kylo going up against Finn. It's like, yeah, Finn's holding his own, but it would have been fun to see Kylo kind of like, how Vader had his one-off with Luke, and he's just kind of like just doing it with one hand. Like he's just kind of like just toying with him in a way.
Yeah.
I feel like I wish they would have did that a little bit more with Kylo. Just kind of have him just not maybe necessarily one-handed, but shoot it in a way that he's not going full steam. He's just kind of toying with him. Like Finn is going full on trying to kill him, but Kylo's just like, "Who the fuck is this motherfucker?" And then give him a last maybe shove at the end. Like, get this fucking gnat away from me.
Well, in Kylo Ren's defense, he also had gotten shot by Chewbacca in the leg, and so he was bleeding. So I mean, he was fucked. He wasn't at 100% in that moment or in that battle. But dude, I mean. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we pivot to scores?
Honestly, I think I am ready to go to scores. Yeah, I think I've already talked about all the stuff I need to discuss. I think I'm ready for a score.
Well, I think one thing that I do want to... I'll kick us off. I was kind of wrestling with this one. I really like this movie. It's a very fun movie. It's better than all the prequels to me. Not even close.
Especially after literally we just watched them too.
Yeah, I actually like this movie more than Return of the Jedi as well. So I mean, if I'm ranking all of the movies in the trilogy, so not including like Rogue One or Solo or any of those standalone movies, I think this might be this is probably my third favorite after Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars. A New Hope.
I can see that.
So I mean, like this is like. It's something that speaks to just like the quality of the stuff that came out.
Well, I feel like the story has very like remnants of
New Hope.
Of New Hope.
A lot of people have said. I've read people say that as a criticism of this movie, but for me, somebody who frankly doesn't even remember that movie all that well and didn't have a close like I'm not as attached to that movie, so it doesn't bother me. I mean, because like honestly, if we're gonna throw the criticism about drawing too heavily from, inspirational works, I mean, people have been knocking Star Wars as basically just like a knockoff of like Joseph Campbell's, like you know what I mean. So like,
I mean, everything
it's derivative. It does derive. Obviously, it derives from that. But to me, I think they successfully inject new blood in the characters of Finn, Rey, Poe, and as well as like the villains in this movie. And I think that my biggest knock, one of my biggest knocks with this movie is I think that they established a fascinating character in Finn and they underdelivered on him.
Yeah.
I think even in the visuals, right, with the actual movie posters, you have images of Finn holding the lightsaber, but almost hinting like he is Jedi adjacent, or you know what I mean? Like you kind of get that impression from the poster. At least I did when this came out, that he was like a Jedi or somebody who was, well,
that's what I was thinking. Like
Padawan, maybe. Even.
Well, he's the Force like is like kind of getting stronger with him, and eventually like maybe that's like gonna be his future. He'll eventually go to training and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and they did not deliver on that.
No.
So that for me were some of my biggest negatives that impacted the score. But I'm gonna go with the 3.5 on this movie.
Okay.
I was kind of going back and forth with the 4, but I ended up kind of settling on a 3.5.
I'm kind of surprised. I'm actually giving this a 4. Kind of like what you were saying. As far as like this being like remnants of A New Hope, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Just because I feel like this gets like newer Star Wars fans like kind of like, up to date a little bit, or trying to get them into like something new. But then also like you're bringing in the original trilogy people, so as it can provides a nice template of like going back to watch some of those movies as well if people want to watch it, if you're a newer Star Wars fan. And I feel like this is also a way for them to maybe flex a little bit of their muscles with, maybe they weren't able to do all the things they wanted to do with the Death Star visually, they weren't able to do, or with maybe some of the battles that they had in like outer space and stuff. So it's like maybe this movie was a great way to, do some tricks visually that they weren't able to do with the first one. They're like, yeah, man, the Death Star is such a cool, it's a dope name, it's this planet killing weapon. But there's like, it was the 70s. They weren't able to do too much with it visually. But now when you look at this Star Killer base, granted, it's more of a mouthful of a name. It's not as cool as a Death Star. But when you look at
the
it
visuals,
just
though, are
in
outstanding.
action, you're like, God damn, man, this shit is awesome.
Oh, man, yeah.
And yeah, so like some of the story stuff, like where it leads to, I'm definitely not a fan of. But as far as like getting new Star Wars fans in, I feel like they do a good job as that. They balance out the old characters with some of the new characters. Like some of my biggest gripes is kind of where this story goes to. But if we're just watching Star Wars Force Awakens, I'm always down to check this movie out, have a great time with it. All of like the action scenes are great.
The ending is really satisfying too.
Yeah.
Like Rey goes to the planet. They finally have the complete picture of where Luke is.
Yeah.
They go. She goes to him, and basically seeking him to train her in the ways of the Force and become a Jedi. It ends on a really strong note. I mean, this movie, it's so funny too to think about this. Like in the prequel, the best of that trilogy is the third one. In the original trilogy, the best one is the second one.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a fair consensus.
Yeah.
Right, over New Hope.
Yeah.
And then in this trilogy, the first one is the best.
Yeah.
Like,
it's kind of a little bit, I guess, all over the place.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Like this one started off on a really strong note.
Yeah, that's where obviously with the money it made and the awards and the accolades and stuff like that, it's a great movie. It's very solid, and I think it's a worthy successor to like the original trilogy. But it just, especially how it's like Last Jedi starts with Luke taking the lightsaber and just throwing it in the water. It's kind of like, what the fuck? I think there's some really good stuff with Last Jedi, especially like visually and the cinematography, especially with like the scene when like Kylo and Rey are fighting the Knights or whatever. I think the Knights of Ren. And
Oh,
the,
yeah,
we're in
yeah,
the
yeah.
all red. Like
Yeah.
visually, it looks awesome.
Yeah.
It's just they dropped the ball with the story.
Their Force connection also was probably one of the best things of this trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Like the storyline between those two
Yeah.
for me was definitely one of the best parts. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so 3.5 and a 4. Okay.
Yeah, not bad. I was kind of surprised you.
I was kind of oscillating back and forth between these two, but I think that the missed opportunity that, never mind what they do with the character of Ren in the next two movies, but just like the missed opportunities within this one, I think that the writing could have been better for him.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest thing that just drops it below a 4 for me.
Yeah.
But that's I was gonna say that wraps up our reviews of the Star Wars movies.
May the 4th be with you.
Indeed.
Until next year.
Yeah, well, right, for sure. Thank you for joining us this week. We'll catch y'all next time.
Peace.